What's good, YouTube? Sensational Sinceres here, and I'm back with another Tom Clancy's The Division Vendor Reset video. We're here for September 4th, 2020's Vendor Reset. So let's get right into this to see what we got good for this week. Okay, so for our first gear items, we're going to head over to the meat locker. Here, the weapons vendor has a Scar L with a gear score of 264. It has 18% enemy armor damage, and the talents it has is Vicious, Destructive, and Skilled. And then also here we got a heavy magazine spring with 11.50% magazine size, 4.50% reload speed, and 10.80% rate of fire. For our next gear items, you want to head over to the base of operations. Here, the weapons vendor has a Tyrant Suppressor with 7.50% crit hit chance, 4% crit hit damage, and 2% accuracy. For our next gear items, we're still at the base of operations. Head over to the advanced weaponry vendor, and here we got a Paratrooper SVD with a gear score of 276. It has 147% headshot damage, and the talents it has is Unforgiving, Competent, and Discipline. Also here we got a military MK46 with a gear score of 267. It has 20% damage to targets out of cover, and the talents it has is Brutal, Adept, and Predatory. For our next gear items, we're still at the base of operations. Head over to the special equipment vendor, and here we got a Liberator with a gear score of 270. It has 21% enemy armor damage, and the talents it has is Brutal, Focused, and Intense. Also here we got a Cassidy with a gear score of 271. It has 320.50% stagger, and the talents it has is Deadly, Ferocious, and Boomstick. Also here we got a G36 Enhanced with a gear score of 264. It has 21% enemy armor damage, and the talents it has is Fierce, Determined, and Focused. Also here we got a Black Market RPK 74E with a gear score of 282. It has 20% damage to targets out of cover, and the talents it has is Deadly, Fierce, and Vicious. Also here we got a Tactical Mask with the talent Enduring on there. It has a gear score of 270. The armor is 923. Its roll for electronics 1187, and the attributes it has is crit hit chance and increased kill XP. Also here we got an operator vest with the talent Reckless on there. It has a gear score of 269. The armor is 1930. Its roll for electronics 1136, and the attributes it has is all resistance, health on kill, and increased kill XP. Also here we got a tactical pack with the talent Inventive on there. It has a gear score of 274. The armor is 1262. Its roll for firearms 1233, and the attributes it has is skill power and burn resistance. Also here we got a prototype electronics mod with 261 electronics and 3% skill haste. Also here we got a prototype performance mod with 3.50% mobile cover damage resilience. Also here we got a 552 hollow sight tan with 7.50% crit hit chance, 6% headshot damage, and 2.50% stability. For our next gear items, we're still at the base operations. Head over to the special blueprints vendor, and here we got an MG5 blueprint with a gear score of 256. We also got an electronics glove blueprint with a gear score of 256. We also got a flash hider blueprint with a power level 34. We also got an angle grip red blueprint with a power level 34. For our next gear items, you want to head over to the cavern. Here the gear vendor has a prototype performance mod with 4.50% support station healing speed. For our next gear items, you want to head over to Kerman Station. Here the weapons vendor has a tactical AUG A3P with a gear score of 262. It has 19% crit hit chance, and the talents it has is Vicious, Sustained, and Fierce. For our next gear items, you want to head over to Camp Clinton. Here the special equipment vendor has a Pecan. If you like to run this weapon, it has a gear score of 281. It has 21% damage to targets out of cover, and the talents it has is Capable, Deadly, and Pecan. Also here we got a Police M4 with a gear score of 272. It has 23% enemy armor damage, and the talents it has is Focused, Determined, and Brutal. Also here we got a Tactical Super 90 SBS with a gear score of 273. It has 351.50% stagger, and the talents it has is Responsive, Sustained, and Ferocious. Also here we got a custom M44 with a gear score of 269. It has 168% headshot damage, and the talents it has is Brutal, Accurate, and Competent. Also here we got a custom L86A2 with a gear score of 265. It has 21% damage to targets out of cover, and the talents it has is Vicious, Unforgiving, and Determined. Also here we got an operator mask with the talent Refreshed on there. It has a gear score of 278. The armor is 928. Its roll for firearms 1270, and the attributes it has is all resistance and burn resistance. Also here we got a tactical vest with the talent Reckless on there. It has a gear score of 269. The armor is 1845. Its roll for firearms 1147. And the attributes it has is exotic damage resilience, skill haste, and increased kill XP. Also here we got a Spec Ops pack with the talent Specialized on there. It has a gear score of 272. The armor is 1164. Its roll for firearms 1259. And the attributes this has is crit damage and burn resistance. Also here we got a prototype electronics mod with 263 electronics and 2,912 skill power. Also here we got a prototype performance mod with 2% pulse crit hit chance. For our next gear items, we're still at Camp Clinton. Head over to the special blueprints vendor, and here we got an ACR blueprint with a gear score of 256. We also got a firearms glove blueprint with a gear score of 256. For our next gear items, you want to head over to Dante's Run. Here the gear vendor has some tactical gloves with the talent Savaged on there. They have a gear score of 273. The armor is 890. It's roll for firearms 1,252. And the attributes this has is shotgun damage, health on kill, and crit hit chance. For our next gear items, you want to head over to Wolves Den. Here the weapons vendor has a tyrant suppressor with 7.50% crit hit chance, 4.50% optimal range, and 2.50% stability. For our next gear items, you want to head over to Madison Stand. Here the gear vendor has a prototype firearms mod with 193 firearms and 3% damage to elites. For our next gear items, you want to head over to The Last Call. Here the weapons vendor has a custom L86A2 with a gear score of 262. It has 21% damage to targets out of cover, and the talents this has is Prepared, Brutal, and Sustain. For our next gear items, you want to head over to the Southpaw. Here the gear vendor has a prototype performance mod with 5.50% first aid self-heal. For our next gear items, you want to head over to the Firewall. Here the gear vendor has a tactical pack with the talent Specialized on there. It has a gear score of 279. The armor is 1,276. Its roll for firearms 1,204. And the attributes this has is stability and disrupt resistance. Also here we got a prototype electronics mod with 188 electronics and 3% damage to elites. And also here we got a prototype performance mod with 7% support station duration. For our next gear items, you want to head over to West 31st Street checkpoint. Here the Dark Zone vendor has a SOCOM MK20 SSR with a gear score of 267. It has 159% headshot damage, and the talents it has is Swift, Destructive, and Unforgiven. And also here we got a Mega Rifle Suppressor with 18% headshot damage, 4.50% optimal range, and 2% accuracy. For our next gear items, you want to head over to West 34th Street checkpoint. Here the Dark Zone gear vendor has a small grip red with 17% crit hit damage, 2% accuracy, and 4.50% optimal range. For our next gear items, you want to head over to West 39th Street checkpoint. Here the Dark Zone vendor has a Tyrant Suppressor with 7.50% crit hit chance, 6% headshot damage, and 4% crit hit damage. For our next gear items, you want to head over to West 42nd Street checkpoint. Here the Dark Zone vendor has a Gunslinger vest with the talent Reckless on there. It has a gear score of 274. The armor is 1,926. Its roll for electronics 1,165. And attributes this has is skill haste, enemy armor damage, and increased kill XP. And I mention this because I'm here. We have a prototype performance mod with 2.50% smart cover damage resilience. For our next gear items, you want to head over to East 64th Street checkpoint. Here the Dark Zone gear mod vendor has a prototype electronics mod with 263 electronics and 2,848 health. And also I mention this because I'm here. We have a prototype performance mod with 4.50% pulse duration. For our next gear items, you want to head over to East 61st Street checkpoint. Here the Dark Zone weapon mod vendor has a heavy magazine spring with 11% magazine size, 4.50% reload speed, and 11.20% rate of fire. And also here we got a pro red dot sight with 18% crit hit damage, 2.50% stability, and 6% headshot damage. For our next gear items, you want to head over to East 58th Street checkpoint. Here the Dark Zone gear vendor has a tactical mask with the talent Enduring on there. It has a gear score of 274. The armor is 891. Its roll for stamina 1,262. And attributes this has is all resistance and damage to elites. And also here we got a tactical pack with the talent Relentless on there. It has a gear score of 275. The armor is 1,246. Its roll for electronics 1,216. And attributes this has is crit damage and burn resistance. For our next gear items, you want to head over to the Park Ave checkpoint. Here the Dark Zone weapons vendor has a converted SMG9. If you like this weapon, it has a gear score of 270. It has 22% crit hit chance. And the talents this has is Brutal, Adept, and Sustain. Also here we got a tactical MK16 with a gear score of 271. It has 22% enemy armor damage. And the talents this has is Fierce, Unforgiven, and Meticulous. Also here we got a classic M44 carbine with a gear score of 269. It has 154% headshot damage. And the talents this has is Prepared, Skilled, and Destructive. For our next gear items, you want to head over to East 46th Street checkpoint. Here the Dark Zone vendor has a Surplus SVD with a gear score of 272. It has 145% headshot damage. And the talents this has is Ferocious, Harmful, and Discipline. Also here we got a tactical mask with the talent Enduring on there. It has a gear score of 266. The armor is 887. Its roll for electronics 1116. And the attributes this has is health on kill and burn resistance. And also here we got a prototype performance mod with 4% ballistic shield damage. For our next gear items, you're going to head over to East 31st Street checkpoint. Here the Dark Zone vendor has an M249B with a gear score of 272. It has 19% damage to targets out of cover. And the talents this has is competent, swift, and vicious. And also here we got a prototype stamina mod with 265 stamina and 3% skill haste. For our next gear items, you're going to head over to the 5th Ave checkpoint. Here the Dark Zone vendor has an enhanced PP19 with a gear score of 271. It has 22.50% crit hit chance. And the talents this has is brutal, unforgiving, and hurry. And also here we got a tactical pack with the talent inventive on there. It has a gear score of 269. The armor is 1173. This roll for electronics 1230. And the attributes this has is skill power and ammo capacity. For our next gear items, we're going to head over to DZ2 safe room. Here the Dark Zone gear vendor has an operator mask with the talent enduring on there. It has a gear score of 261. The armor is 894. Its roll for firearms 1133. And the attributes this has enemy armor damage and disorientation resistance. Also here we got a Spec Ops armor with the talent rapid on there. It has a gear score of 266. The armor is 1766. Its roll for electronics 1210. And the attributes this has is enemy armor damage, exotic damage resilience, and increased kill XP. For our next gear items, you're going to head over to DZ3 safe room. Here the Dark Zone weapons vendor has a custom L86A2 with a gear score of 284. It has 22% damage to targets out of cover. And the talents this has is vicious, fierce, and meticulous. For our next gear items, you're going to head over to DZ8 safe room. Here the Dark Zone gear vendor has a tactical mask with the talent enduring on there. It has a gear score of 272. The armor is 956. Its roll for electronics 1137. And the attributes this has is skill power and increased kill XP. Also here we got an operator vest with the talent reckless on there. It has a gear score of 270. The armor is 1765. Its roll for electronics 1204. And the attributes this has is health on kill, exotic damage resilience, and increased kill XP. And also here we got a tactical pack with the talent inventive on there. It has a gear score of 266. The armor is 1156. Its roll for firearms 1187. And the attributes this has is skill power and ammo capacity. For our next gear items, you would head over to DZ9 safe room. Here the Dark Zone weapon mod vendor has a tyrant suppressor with 7.50% crit hit chance, 2% accuracy, and 5% optimal range. Alright everybody, that's it for our Tom Clancy's The Division vendor reset video for September 4th, 2020's vendor reset. I hope everybody who tuned into it found them something that they needed. Smash on that sub and like button, y'all. I appreciate that support. Check me out on Twitch. I appreciate it. I stream on there sometimes. I appreciate y'all following me over there. And I'll see y'all with the next one. Take care. Peace.